this ceremony gave. It had been going on since Saxon times, as his wife had gleefully pointed out, when he had tried on his silk hose and breeches, ruffle and velvet jacket that dated from the 18th century. He smiled as he remembered joking about his sword, and the time when his name had been pricked by Her Majesty, when he had been put forward for the office. A tradition inaugurated by her namesake, when apparently a quill was not at hand when the petition was presented to her, and she had used a dagger. Ah, how his wife would have loved being here today. His throat started to ache. She had died a few months ago, and as he was a past holder of the office, would have been invited to attend today beside him. Further thought was interrupted as a fanfare of trumpets rang out. Led by the Vicar of St. Paul's, the 4 purple-robed and bewigged Crown Court judges were followed by the high sheriffs of surrounding counties, then the coroner, the under-sheriff, the chief constable, the chaplain, and bringing up the rear, the man whose service this was. He joined his waiting wife, as he had done 20 years before. They remained standing as the High Sheriff's Service for Her Majesty's judges in the county commenced with the processional hymn to the tune of Hanover. Later, after the readings given by the incumbent's children, the congregation stood to sing. The hymn was one of his favourites. His voice was thinner than it used to be, but he sang with gusto, "We plough the fields and scatter the good seed on the land." Very appropriate, he thought. The man was a farmer and seed merchant, and he noted in the programme that it was being sung to Wir Flügen, the setting by J.A.P. Schultz. That, too, would have pleased his wife. After another hymn and prayer, the bishop ascended to the pulpit and preached on the need for everyone, the judges included, and perhaps especially them, to remember that they would one day all stand before the judgment seat of God. He began to think of his war. He'd killed, sometimes women and children. There could be no getting away from that fact. The innocent had been caught up and ensnared by the evil that had been at the heart of the darkness that they had fought in order to reach Churchill's sunny uplands. He'd been so lost in his own thoughts that it came as a shock when another fanfare heralded the need to stand and sing the national anthem. The service was finished. With them still standing, the crucifer led out the choir and the church procession, then the mace-bearer and the civic dignitaries, and lastly the High Sheriff's party, including his wife, led by the Vicar of St. Paul's. It was over for another year. Across the road at the town hall, drinks were dispensed to the large crowd that grew increasingly noisy as the wine was consumed. Several friends and acquaintances came up to him to shake his hand. In the end, his legs couldn't hold out any longer, and he had to sit down on a chair set against the wall. His mind began to drift again. It was at a do somewhat like this that he had first met Rosemary. It was in the mess one summer pre-war evening. Of course, before that, there had been all the thrill of leaving school and going to Cranwell. He'd already been infected by the bug of flying when a friend of his father had taken him up. To this day, he wasn't sure whether the man was just naturally wild, or had his father asked him to try and put him off because he wanted his son to join him in the family engineering business. After a succession of spins, loops, and rolls, he'd set foot on terra firma again, even more in love with flying than before. He was just one of a generation of young men for whom in the 30s the lure and excitement of the skies was overpowering. So, in the autumn of 1937, he entered Cranwell as an officer cadet, and after passing out as a pilot officer, the lowest of the low, he'd been sent on his preliminary flying training course comprising 25 hours of dual instruction and a further 25 hours solo. The aircraft was an all-metal Blackburn B-2 biplane, and where he had expected to be sitting